Hi everyone, this is Grandmaster Blaster. Welcome to the first video on my channel. This is my high school truck, a 2005 Chevrolet Colorado Z85 with a 3.5 liter inline 5 Atlas engine, two-wheel drive. We bought it used with about 14,000 miles on the odometer. Early upgrades were pretty standard, K&N cold air intake, Line-X bed liner, roll-up tonneau bed cover. All of those are actually still installed on the truck right now. I was pretty hard on it early on. I drove this two-wheel drive like a four-wheel drive. I added a 1-inch hockey puck lift and 30.5 all-terrain tires. I ended up blowing up the original rear end after getting it stuck in the mud a few times, and I replaced that one with a stock Colorado rear end with the G80 mechanical locking differential. Then it lived like that until late 2022, when I got the itch to start turning this into an autocross truck. I didn't have any metal fabrication experience at the time, so I started replacing everything I could with drop-in parts. Cosmetically, I started by removing the 1-inch body lift and then installed a roll pan, the hood louver that you see there, new headlights and taillights. The front suspension came from Fabot Engineering. He made these custom upper and lower control arms that gave me a 2-inch drop and allowed me to use Ford Crown Vic knuckles. It also came with the Viking double adjustable coilover shocks. I installed Willwood forged narrow Superlight 6R disc brakes intended for the Crown Vic. And then I also replaced the stock sway bar with a Beltec beefier version of it. To top that off, some Weld S71 18x8 wheels went on the front. For the rear, it started with Beltec 3-inch drop leaf springs and the Caltrax traction bars. I had planned on using the stock Colorado G80 locker, but ultimately decided to upgrade to a custom ordered Strange Engineering Ford 9-inch complete rear end with late big Ford ends and an Eaton TrueChack limited slip differential. Viking Performance double adjustable struts also came from Fabot Engineering, and then the Beltec rear sway bar and the Willwood forged narrow Superlight 4R disc brake kit for the 9-inch also went on. These Weld Racing S71 18x10 wheels rounded out the rear. I retained the stock drive shaft for now by adding a 1330 to 1350 conversion U-joint in the back to connect to that 9-inch pinion. I measured the geometry so the new Strange rear end matched the pinion angle of the stock rear end. For anyone looking to do this, that's pinion up 7 degrees. So that brings us to today, where I've been slowly acquiring parts over the last few years in preparation for an LS swap. An intermediate step is to remove the stock gas tank and install a Holley 20-gallon fuel cell and a battery box in the bed. The intent there is to move that weight to the rear of the truck for balance. So what I've done so far in this is I removed the bed. There it is over there. And I've welded a 3-inch by 2-inch by 120 wall rectangular tube to the back of the frame rail here because I removed the stock bumper when I put on the roll pan. Also cut out these 11 gauge reinforcement plates, which I'll be welding to the inside of the frame rail right there. I'm doing that because these Colorado frames are hydroformed, so GM could get away with using a little bit thinner gauge metal on that. I'm going to take this 1 5/8 inch 120 wall DOM tube. I'm going to weld it right here in the middle between these two things. And that'll add a little bit of rigidity in there. Eventually, what I'll have to do is I'll have to remove that evap canister right here, and then I'll have to cut the spare tire structure probably about right here, so I can drop the fuel cell down in the back between the frame. I can't cut too much of this because the rear shocks mount right here against that. So the plan is to take some of that same 11 gauge, plate it where I cut it off, and then when I weld additional fuel cell structure out of 1 5/8 120 wall, bend it, weld it between the back right here and this reinforcement, kind of weld all that together, and keep me some rigidity in there. Here's a sneak peek at some of the parts I've acquired for this. Includes the fuel cell with an intake fuel pump. Got the radiator, electric fan, engine mounts, fuel straps, fuel vent kit, dash, all sorts of stuff. So stay tuned as I'll continue building the fuel cell structure here, and then I'll get on to pulling the engine and the transmission and dropping in an LS. Thanks for watching.